Welcome to the Self-Care You podcast. I'm your host, Sharon, the number one self-caregiver in the world. This podcast is the intersection of self-care, advocacy, and compassion for self-caregivers. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And so, with this episode, what we will talk about is study thyself. I'm going to say that again. This episode, we will talk about study thyself. And so, for those of you who have been following me for a while, who's been tuning in to Self Care You podcasts or Self Care You nuggets or conscious sharing moments or conscious sharing moments, you know that self care is the main thing. And self care has it's multifaceted. It's pretty much, any practice or ritual or routine that cultivates you to the highest version of yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, and even financially. And so, in saying that, and for those of you who've been with me for a while, remember the four pillars of self care is self awareness, is sitting in silence, is deep rest, and movement in action. And so, and I always say with the last three, it really helps for that first one, which is the self awareness. And that self awareness is just so deep. It's the awareness of yourself, and what are you contemplating? What's on your mind? How do you move? Why do you do the things that you do? And so, in saying that, it is so important for us to have, for you to have, success in life is to study thyself. And this world is constantly moving. And so it makes you think you have time. And one thing that I will say, you may have heard me say it before, is that, okay, let's say the world stops for no one other than the pandemic that we had. That was, I'm not going to say it's the only time, but it's the only time in this century that has at, or at least in my lifetime, and I'm half a century. And so, in saying that, you know, there are people, who really do, contemplate and looking at themselves and doing, different things. But to be able to sit with yourself, like, oh, Sharon, I don't have time because if I do this, then I won't be able to do that. But one thing I will say, if you do not invest in yourself, and just learning the intricate parts of yourself. Like self-care, it is the luxury parts, that those things that we do to make us feel good and yummy. It is all of that. And it's the duality of all those things. It's almost like to be able to enjoy the luxury and so in studying yourself, it's like, what do you want? What are your vision? Because one thing that I can say is, even though I had a goal of what I was doing, but to really have a vision of my life, I didn't always have that. I didn't think in that way. Like I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And even when I started new adventures or new things in my life, like initially, it's like, oh yeah, I want to do this. But to really have a vision of my life, I didn't always do that. So that really comes from you studying yourself. It's like, how do you move? It's not just your likes and dislikes. That's important too. But how do you move? What makes you move? If you have soft and hard stops, what activates those things? And how much sometimes I just say we have experiences in our lives where where we may say someone activate. Most people say trigger. I say activate. We may say someone activated us, but sometimes we need to be activated so we can, dig a ditch so we can dig our well. And so sometimes we need that. But then the flip side, because your girl always bring it back to self. What about us? Just like someone else may be, let's say a ditch for us, we're not always a well for others. So we may be a ditch for others, in their lives at that time. And it's kind of one of those things I really look at life as everything is needed. And when we're in the cocoon, it doesn't feel good. So that's another reason why we need to study ourselves. Look at your own patterns of when you are faced with certain things, like what are your reactions to those things? Because of the fact people seem to think that when you are, it's almost like when you're in a situation that you will be able to handle it. But if you never really handle and really manage the many situations, I'm going to put it like that, because of course you're not going to be able to truly manage things or deal with things until those things come. But to be able, let's say, to handle disappointments, rejection, differences, because there are some people who truly believe and feel that when it comes to having a difference of opinion and you are voicing yourself as an argument, there are people like that. And so, like, if you are sensitive to feedback, that's something to work on, especially as an entrepreneur. So by you being a self-carepreneur, that means that you are setting yourself up to be able to handle that, where it's not a bother. Again, you're unbothered. It's like it's just part of it, because when you really think about it, come on, do you like everything that comes in your spheres? Let's get real. It's like we want people, to like us, believe that we're nice, the good, shiny parts of ourselves. Of course, we want to present ourselves that way, but we need to remember that we may not always accept that of others, so others may not accept that from us. So, in saying that, how much I've always loved chocolate. I could probably tell you different stories about chocolate, but I remember when I was younger, definitely high school, maybe middle, but I remember when I had Haagen-Dazs, the first time I ever had Haagen-Dazs ice cream. So good. So initially, I would say my first choice, if I had to choose between vanilla and chocolate ice cream, most of the time I would choose chocolate. But there would be those times I would get another flavor. Another favor of mine is cookies and cream. I love cookies and cream as well. So if I had to choose between cookies and cream and chocolate, like, oh my, but cookies and cream and vanilla, but let's say if there's all three, there will be that rare occasion that I will choose the vanilla over the cookies and cream and the chocolate. So you are the same way when it comes to your life. When you are have a set of choices there, and it's kind of like sometimes there may be no rhyme or reason that you would do it other than you want to try something new. So when life happens, there are times that you do that you may choose something different. So it's the same way when it comes to other people. And so in saying that, is when it comes to you studying yourself, is to even ask, like, what makes the difference? And of course you only answer to you. I'm not gonna say only, but you know what I mean. That you answer to yourself of what was going on, not going on, but how do you come up with that? What was the difference? And things like that. Just ask simple questions. It's like, oh, I chose this, and notice your pattern. Because the other thing is sometimes it could be Sometimes when individuals are stressed, most of the time we default to whatever our default programming is, our comfort zone, our default defense mechanism, our usual way of handling things. And this is why self care is so important, so that we can train ourselves to be able to make a clear and conscious decisions where it's not running on autopilot. Sometimes autopilot may be a little okay in certain circumstances, but most of the time it is not okay. So you need your full self. So this is why it's important for you to be able to have reflections in life. And especially for individuals who are entrepreneurs, because oh my, I've learned so much about myself. Again, it's kind of like those soft and hard stops, the things that I need to work on more. So this is what self-care is all about. Again, it is about the luxuries of the self-care, the massages, the yoga, the meditation, and especially with those things I just mentioned, in that they help when it comes to the self-awareness as well. And so the more that you are investing in yourself and learning more about yourself and seeing, different things that you can reflect on, different things that you can contemplate on, different things that you may need to work on more, different things that you can do less of. All of those things are a part of you. And to be certain in the decisions and the movements and the actions that you take, because you know that whatever that you do, think, and feel will have an impact, not just on you, but on others as well. So this is why self-care is so, so important. It's how much we do not like to be in that space, when you're in the cocoon, when you're in the transition. But life is like that. It's like there are just so many, as they say, ebbs and flows, just so many opportunities for you to glow, opportunities to grow, and opportunities for you to just be. And that's the thing. And even I have been guilty of this, and I'm pretty sure I am not the only one, because it just feels so good to just in the being. But it's to be able to be in the being regardless of the situation. It's almost like to have the calmness in the storm, but it's almost like in being in that relaxed state too much isn't good either, because when you need to move, you won't be moving. So this is another reason why self-care is so important, and to be able to study, because the thing is, it's kind of like, okay, what is it that you need to put in place in order to move? What is it that you need to put in place in order to stay still? What is it that you need to put in place so that you can do the things that need to be done, so that you can be the person that you want to be, so you can continue to level up. And so when it comes to self-care, it is really, really, really important for you to invest in yourself, so that you can do the things, you can be there for others as you want to be. And with all of that, remember to incorporate different self-care activities, self-care acts. And so make sure you go to the website of her firm, holisticnetwork.net, to get your copy of our ebook, Rest, Rejuvenate, and Recover, the RRR. And this is several self-care practices in which you can rejuvenate your mind, body, spirit. It can either boost or settle you in the way that you need, because sometimes we need a boost of our energy and sometimes we may need to settle. So make sure you get your Rest, Rejuvenate, and Recover ebook today. And so when it comes to self care, when it comes to you developing yourself. It's you being really conscious, you really taking the time to be able to put yourself even in situations so that you can grow. It's not going to feel good, but the more that you challenge yourself, the more that you develop yourself so that you can have the discipline to do the things that you are just pretty much that you desire to do, desire to be, so that again, you always hear me say it's for, to, and through you. So you're the only one who can do it. Because even though you can have the blueprint, you can have everything in front of you, but if you are not taking the action, if you don't have the discipline, then you will not be able to develop yourself. You will stay stagnated in your life and wondering, like if you're you could say, oh, I'm going to program to program or program, just like for those of us who are degreed, meaning, we went to college and got a degree. And even though you can go to class, but if you really didn't put the study in to truly get the grade, because you could have an A, but do you really know it? And so are you able to really do that? And so the real learning is the learning of life, the learning of your life. So as you're out there doing for others, make sure you continue to pour into yourself so that you can serve from the overflow. And you know who you are as a person, but you continue to rise up to the best version of you, because the best version of you yesterday is not the best version of you today. And the best version of you today is not the best version of you tomorrow. So each day is a new beginning so that you can be a better version of yourself, so you can serve the world in the way that you want. Because when you do not develop yourself, there will come a time when everything hits, you say everything hit the fan, or hit the fan or hit the ground. Hit the sky or hit the ground. It's going to hit somewhere, but you want to be able to brace yourself to be able to I don't really want to say endure, but to be able to overcome and persevere during that time so that it will not catch you by surprise. Believe me, I know, because I've had some things that have caught me by surprise. And it's saying that it is just because things are going well, it doesn't mean that you are well. Woo! I'm going to say that again. Just because things are going well, it doesn't truly mean that you are completely well. So this is another reason for self-care, is so that you can again be the best version. And being the best version is like really mentally. Just think about it. Where are you mentally with yourself? Where are you emotionally with yourself? Where are you spiritual with yourself? Where are you physically with yourself? And then financially, where are you with yourself? So this is what it's all about. It's not just about doing, and then there's like nothing and no one around but you. And that's okay. But we want you to be full of yourself. That's where it counts, to truly be full of yourself. So thank you for joining me for this episode of Self Care You podcast.